Hi everyone. This is just a short message before our main video. One for our loyal fans, to all the 23 of you. You're the reason why we continue to produce this podcast. And to all the new viewers, I've been seeing the data, and not all of you are hitting the subscribe button or pressing on the bell icon. This has got to change. Because Cricket Fan TV without the fan is just Cricket TV, and nobody wants that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this three-part series where we've got our international friends on board and we discuss who the best ever test match fast bowler is. Don't forget to comment your own view and do share it with your cricket friends. And please subscribe, man.
खिलाड़ी वाह वाह जियो खिलाड़ी वाह वाह
Okay, a grand namaste to all our YouTube viewers and our special guests on the podcast today. That's right, guys. Cricket Fan TV has gone international. Basically, we've got representatives of the three countries that matter in cricket. Like, I'm sorry, New Zealand, but
The big three.
you're the friendly neighbor that nobody really takes seriously. So yeah, you've got India, Australia, and England on board. Of course, Michael Clark or Pup, he recently said that the Aussies on the field are not as feisty as they used to be because they cannot chirp into Kohli's ears what they would have earlier because they want that lucrative IPL contract. By the way, I feel really sorry for our Pat Cummins fans. But I assure you viewers that on this podcast, our Aussies, our good friends, Charbel, who of course writes for Crick blog, you can follow him on Twitter, and our good friend Paul with the Twitter handle uh, the summer game and the podcast Cricket Filtered. I'm sure these guys are going to be feisty and not going to mince their words on this podcast, and I'll tell you why.
You're
Because
right.
we also have a certain Englishman, our good friend Tom, also who runs the channel Le Pinch Hitter on Twitter. Give him a follow. And that's the kind of relationship between the English and the Aussies. They tend to not get along, but they are incomplete without each other. So, of course, on the podcast today, so guys, how are you doing? How are you managing in this lockdown without the game? I mean, I've been watching reruns of the 2011 World Cup because, to be honest, that's the last time I was really happy as an Indian cricket fan. What have you guys been up to?
So over
Yeah.
here in London, we've been watching loads of reruns as well. It's 2:45 UK time at the moment. The sun's shining. It's beautiful weather outside. Very reminiscent of Headingley last summer, actually. So hopefully the Aussies can
Bring it
remember
up.
just before midnight watching Ben Stokes hit the winning run. So yeah, I'm surviving just fine. Thanks, guys.
We can watch just Tim Payne kissing the Ashes urn, bringing it home as well. So that's all right. Works out okay. No,
I
I've
was
been
saying
doing
that
all
I
right.
didn't actually.
Yeah. Here you go, Paul.
Sorry. I was saying to friends that I didn't actually miss cricket, and I was like, it's a break after having my entire life of no off season and just watching the cricket. And then I suddenly realised I'm chalking up about 2 hours a day on YouTube of highlights from basically every
Tell me
series that's
about it.
ever been. I was watching the Ashes from 1970-71 the other night, and Jon Snow terrorising Australians at 3 in the morning. I thought it's time to go to bed.
It's the same. My fiance
Yeah.
was telling me, yeah, you can have a break from cricket, but no, stuck on YouTube as well. And on Twitter, doesn't stop.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when you talk about cricket footage, it's really difficult to find when you compare to other sports like football, etc. You can still find footage, but for cricket in general, it's very difficult to find compilation. So whatever we have on YouTube, we make the most of it.
Of course.
Uh, so of course, guys, today we've got international, and the reason why it's good to have people from different countries on board is that you get different perspectives on the same thing. Like for me, maybe India crashing out of the 2019 World Cup was like a big upset. Until now, I'm depressed about it. But for you guys, maybe it wasn't that big a deal. So of course, with the theme of our podcast today, I just thought to myself, how can I, look more credible for this? So I just went with the Mitchell Johnson look. Tom, I hope you remember the Ashes series when Johnson donned this look. And Yeah, that's the point of our podcast today, where we aim to understand and reminisce about. That's the major reason about the greatest test fast bowlers of all time. Now, the test fast bowler commodity in itself. Like before we delve into what we actually did, like what are your views on the test fast bowler commodity? Because for me, still the best sight in cricket is on day one of a test match, a good pitch, a bowler coming in, swinging the ball, a big slip cordon. So, what is the test match bowler commodity for you guys? What does it mean?
Who wants to go first? I'll go first. So I think fast bowling is absolutely crucial, remains crucial in Test cricket. I think probably pure fast bowling as it was back in the days, probably a bit of a dying breed in Test cricket. I think because of the sheer amount of cricketers play these days, with the three formats of the game, they've got to manage things a little bit better. But I think if you have a good bowling lineup in Test cricket, you're always a chance of winning because you need 20 wickets to win a game. And I think why Australia have done relatively well over the years is because they've always had a good crop of fast bowlers coming through, and that's always kept them in Test matches and given them a chance of victory. And that remains the case right now. So we're quite blessed with fast bowlers. So I think if you've got a good crop, I think India are moving in that direction as well. If you've got that crop of fast bowlers, I think it's always been the case in Test cricket. You have a chance.
I think one of the reasons I got into cricket was I'm old enough to remember the 84-85 West Indies tour of Australia, where the West Indies had a bowling lineup that had Garner, Marshall, Holding, and Walsh. Like those four guys.
Imagine facing that. Well,
Walsh was the worst. Like imagine a bowling attack where Courtney Walsh is the worst bowler.
Yeah.
And I remember the first Test match of the summer, Australia got bowled out for 70, and they were lucky to get to 70. And I was, I wasn't saying I was watching it from behind the couch, but it was just terrifying and unbelievably captivating. So I agree. Fast bowling at its very best is one of the great things in cricket.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that as well. And I guess over here in the UK, we've not really been blessed with quite as many raw fast bowlers as some of the other countries, Australia, West Indies, South Africa as well. But I guess for me, what I absolutely love about fast bowlers is not only are they, as you say, starting off the Test matches day one, charging in, but the fact that the majority of them are rubbish at batting as well. So it just makes for excellent viewing with either bat or ball. So that's I think that's one of the great things about fast bowlers is the absolute range of being amazing at something to being useless at something within the same sport.
Yeah. And trying to look good at it, trying to look good as well while doing it. Trent Bolt comes to mind when that happens.
Yeah, cricket would definitely be incomplete without them. And I often ask myself and my friends this question in cricketing circles: who do you think is the best at a certain thing? And whenever this debate happens, and suppose sticking to the particular topic, best test fast bowler, there's always some bias involved. Like if somebody would just come up to me and ask me, inherently I would say Zaheer Khan. So even though maybe for anybody from the rest of the world, Zaheer Khan wouldn't come to mind, I would inherently.
He's a good Sheffield Shield standard bowler.
Oh, that's harsh. No, he's good. There's the Aussie being said.
Sorry.
No problem. No, that's what we expect in some digs at each other is fine. So to answer this question, to remove this bias, the best thing that I could think of at Cricket Fan TV was, using the stats of the bowlers and not taking their names. Of course, for some stats nuts, they would simply see the average and strike rate and tell me, oh, okay, this guy is Megra. But at least for the majority of the crowd, that wouldn't happen. So recently on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, on our social media handles, we ran a large blind mega poll where the objective metric we took to come down to a round of 16 was the top 16 wicket takers in Test cricket. And after doing that, we randomly matched them up, had different rounds of polling, and then asked all our followers on these social media handles to vote. We got an overwhelming response. We got close to 6,000 votes at the end of all the rounds. And then, we came down to the winner. So here I would encourage the viewers to actually pause the video, have a look at the bracket, and don't look at the stats. Just instinctively think of which bowler you think would progress in the round. And I'm telling you, there'll be some surprising results, some shocks. So, of course, for the round of 16, we came down to the top 16 wicket takers and then randomly matched them up. So the first matchup that we had was an interesting one. Jimmy Anderson versus Dennis Lillee. Now, I'm sure you guys have something to say about this. So, Tom, what is Jimmy Anderson meant for you guys? I mean, 150 plus test matches for a bowler. That's just incredible, isn't it?
He's great, and he just keeps on going. I absolutely love Jimmy, and I was actually there when he made his England debut in an ODI at the MCG in either the back end of November or maybe it was early December 2002. And as with most England tours to Australia, all of our players were getting injured, retiring, probably going home at the same time. And Anderson actually got called up from I think a fast bowling camp that he was on. And he got selected for this ODI, but he didn't even have his name or his number on the back of his shirt. It was that last minute. And so, yeah, I feel a real privilege to see his debut and then really see his career kicking on. And you just look at Jimmy Anderson and you kind of think about his hair in the early days where he had almost like a KP-esque bit of colour going through it. Last summer he dyed it grey, which was a bit odd. But as you say, he's been going since 2002. It's now 2020. I was looking at the years that all the players have been playing who are on the list, and I think there's only one player who's actually lasted longer than him. So yeah, his duration is just incredible. I love the fact that he turned it on in Australia in 2010-11. Admittedly, he's not been able to turn it on every time when he goes over there, but there's very few English players who've got such a good record in Australia as him. And also, I think the Ashes series last summer would have been very different if Jimmy had managed to bowl more than the 4 overs that he didn't bowl. Which, off the top of my head, I think he went for maybe 1 run. And was just being great. So yeah, we absolutely love Jimmy. He's a great lad. He's a great bowler, and I think the Aussies don't really like him, which just adds to it as well. So that's what we love about him.
Yeah. What do you have to say about Dennis?
Paul, you want to talk about Dennis first?
Yeah, I mean, the first Test match I remember was actually Dennis Lillee's last Test match, and I think that's 36 years ago now. Dennis Lillee is still doing TV commercials in Australia. That's how popular he still is. He was the Shane Warne of his era. He was so popular, and particularly before he injured his back, the run-up that he had to the wicket was just excitement plus. And he was kind of, you hear lots of players talking about, he was the complete fast bowler. One of the things I like, and it's kind of a story that impinges on how the way that helmets have changed cricket, that the 1974-75 Ashes was when Lillee and Thompson together terrorised England. But in the first innings of the first Test match, Tony Greig actually scored a century, and he was so confident and cocky and mad that each time he'd hit Dennis Lillee for 4, he would signal a boundary himself in addition to the umpire. And I remember a few years ago they showed the highlights of this, and a couple of the pull shots, he wasn't quite getting into line. He was still smashing it for 4. And one of the commentators said to Tony Greig, I don't know whether it was Slater or Healy, you weren't quite getting into line there, Greggy. And he said, well, I'll tell you, when Dennis Lillee's bowling to you and you've got no helmet, you wouldn't be getting into line either. It was like a real difference. And I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're not going to get your head behind those. Lillee, for many Australians, is their greatest sporting hero.
Yeah. And I just build on that and say the respect and admiration that I have for batsmen in that era is just humongous. The likes of Gavaskar and the likes of Border and the likes of these guys who face these bowlers, these scary fast bowlers, in different times without proper helmets or any helmet at all, for that fact. I think the impact that Dennis Lillee has had on my life in particular, look, Dennis Lillee was before my time, but I can't have a cricket discussion with my father without him mentioning Dennis Lillee. Just like we could talk about T20 cricket and he'll talk about how good Dennis Lillee was back in the day. And it's just remarkable, that impact. My uncles are the same. They came to the country in the 70s and they were introduced to cricket that time. Dennis Lillee was bowling, and that's how they fell in love with the game. And I think what Paul said about, how much he was loved, definitely feel that very close to home here as well.
Yeah, I completely agree on that point, especially about the batsmen, going out there without proper helmets,
Oh,
facing
yeah.
the likes of the West Indian bowlers, Thompson, LILLEE. I mean, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
So, of course, like we ran the polls, and the clear difference in this was that, Dennis LILLEE had a better average strike rate than Anderson, but Anderson had played much more than Dennis LILLEE, even twice the number of his matches. So, Anderson took this poll, and I think it was based on the longevity, and longevity is an important factor. Anderson took it only 60-40, which is actually the margin is quite less when we compare it to the other polls that we had. But of course, LILLEE had to bow out in this one. But the impact that Dennis LILLEE and Jeff Thompson had, like Jeff Thompson, like some of the batsmen say that he even bowled at like a 170 kilometers per hour. I don't know how they measured it, but they just say that, boy, it did seem like that.
Yeah.
Okay, then the next matchup that we had was Glenn McGrath versus Richard Hadley. Now again, the battle of the two neighboring countries, Australia and New Zealand. And of course, the one differentiating factor about Hadley was that he was an all-rounder. So of course, on the batting front, I don't think there's much to talk about. But between McGrath and Hadley, again, like what are your memories, especially about Hadley? I mean, he's undoubtedly New Zealand's best export of fast bowling till date. So, Sir Richard Hadley and Glenn McGrath, what are your thoughts on these?
I think it's kind of like
yeah, you can go, Paul. Yeah.
it's kind of like Djokovic playing Federer in the first round. To be honest, I feel sorry for both of them.
That's true.
I mean, Hadley was just amazing, and my biggest memory of him, and again to go back a long time, when I was a young kid, he came out to Australia and took 15 wickets in a Test match in 1985-86, and it was just a humiliation for Australia. It's the only time that New Zealand has ever beaten Australia in a Test series in Australia, and Hadley took 9 wickets in the first innings, and the one that he didn't take, he caught at fine leg, and he was just he was fast as well. Like he had this beautiful action. He swung the ball, and especially early in his career, he was intimidating too. So, as I said, I think it's Hadley deserved to go deeper into the tournament than this. He was an amazing.
Agreed. Bowler. Yeah, I think what's so special about these bowlers is how easy they made it look. I mean, Hadley was one of the few that just had that languid run up, easy action, and it would often surprise batsmen. I think just how quick they were, because it didn't look like they were trying too hard, kind of thing. I think, Hadley was also before my time, but from what I've seen and heard of him, he was just absolutely outstanding. His ability to swing the ball both ways at good pace. I think he and Martin Crowe did an amazing job in putting New Zealand cricket on the map, in Test cricket, big time. And I think in comparison to Glenn McGrath, they're both very similar in terms of their, unrelenting line and length and their ability to move the ball. So I think as Paul said, it's a Djokovic Federer matchup in the first round, very much so.
Yeah, it's definitely two big names. Well, the whole thing's big names, isn't it? But you're right. This is two of the best. It's like the end of season tennis tour where they suddenly just put everyone together, and there's no easy games at all for it. And without calling Paul the granddad of this podcast, certainly Hadley was before my time a little bit as well. So I don't have a great deal to say on that, but all I will say on Glenn McGrath is just, I guess, probably the opposite of Jimmy Anderson. Like, Glenn McGrath can do everything wrong in my eyes, and throughout the numerous Ashes where he dominated us, it was just painful to watch. But the worst thing about it is nowadays on Test Match Special, he's actually all right. And that's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to come to terms with in my life. So irrespective of whichever way this vote goes, I'm still struggling with the fact that Glenn McGrath is actually quite a nice guy.
Michael Atherton might feel the same way.
Yeah.
It was really interesting how, the Aussies actually spoke more about Hadley in this case, and Tom spoke more about McGrath. It just shows, that Aussies have not completely healed yet. So, of course, online, this was an easy one. McGrath took it by 83%. So, McGrath got 83% of the votes. But you're right. I mean, Dennis LILLEE and Richard Hadley, they're all-time legends in their own right. Like, all of these players are. the next poll that we had was actually a battle of the all-rounders. It was Kapil Dev versus Ian Botham, and like on Kapil Dev, he really changed Indian cricket. Like he
Yeah.
inspired so many of the current crop to
Yeah.
actually take up the sport. The Indian fast bowling scene at the time was so weak that when our team had 2 to 3 specialist spinners, Sunil Gavaskar used to open the bowling. But then
Yeah.
Kapil Dev
Wow.
came on the scene. We have still been looking for the next Kapil Dev. Every fast bowling all rounder that comes along, we just take him into the team even before he has excelled at first class cricket.
Yeah.
But yeah, against Beefy, a legend in English cricket. So, what did you guys think about this matchup? And again, HADLEE, Kapil Dev, Ian Botham, great batsmen as well. So, these bowling all rounders, they would be such a great commodity today in T20 cricket.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in straight away and say that both of them, you look at their stats, they're incredible. I saw a bit at the end of Beefy's career when he put on a little bit of timber around the waistline. But certainly Kapil Dev and Beefy themselves, just absolutely incredible stats. And I think the thing to remember with these guys is that back in those days, you probably did have 10 pints after each game. You didn't really go to a sports massage therapist. You didn't warm down. You didn't warm up. So to have played as many games as they did to get this number of wickets is pretty incredible. And we should give them some kudos for that as well. But yeah, Beefy's just incredible. We still talk about 1981 HADLEE all the time. Obviously, we talk about Ben Stokes HADLEE, 2019 now as well. But just even now, you can still see he's just a huge character, and he's just one of those players, one of those all rounders that his whole everything about him, whether he was batting, bowling, fielding, like he could just do it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's I think he's one of those players that the Aussies often say he was so good he could have been Australian, and that just says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, as the grandfather of the podcast, I actually can't remember 1981. I'm proud to say that's before my memory.
Excellent.
But in addition to Headingley, the thing that Australians at the time lost sleep over was that Australia in the next test match, or the one after that at Edgbaston, had the game shot to bits. They were going to win. They were cruising to a victory. They were chasing a very small target and they were going fine. And in desperation, really threw the ball to Ian Botham. And he took 5 for 1 and won the game for England. And it was like, are you kidding me? We've had now 2 games where Ian Botham has ruined us. And then in the next time out in Australia, in 1982-83, there was a famous match where Australia were trying to get a last wicket partnership up. Jeff Thompson and Alan Border were batting. Jeff Thompson had come in at number 11, had no chance, but they got to, I think they needed 3 to win. And again, in desperation, they threw the ball to Ian Botham, and he took the final wicket. So growing up as an Australian, it was like, Ian Botham, every time we play him, he's going to make us look stupid.
Yeah. And for me, there's never an all-rounder discussion without mention of Ian Botham in particular. Kapil Dev as well, for what he did for Indian cricket, that 1983 World Cup win and how he led the side then was absolutely outstanding. But Botham just caused nightmares for Australia. Looking back, and and what he did was just freakish, bat and ball. And sort of when you compare the likes of Ben Stokes and Andrew Flintoff, you always look at, okay, how good are they, or were they compared to Ian Botham? He's the one that the English guys will always measure against, just because how good he was, kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, like that all-rounder commodity, when I look at this list, we talk about HADLEE, there's also Imran Khan coming up. That kind of a player it's a gem. Like, it is so difficult to find that 3-dimensional player. And like, if they went for the IPL auction, say, you got guys like Pat Cummins going for 17 crores. These guys would totally take the auction by the bit because, guys like Marcus Stoinis and Daniel Christian and...
No, that's right. No, they're not Ian Botham, are they? No.
Such players get paid so much money because of what they bring to the team, but these guys, absolute legends in all dimensions of the game.
That's right.
So first, this poll was taken by Beefy. He won it by getting 65% of the votes. And again, this shows us that if you don't reveal the name, people actually may go for someone else, because with the kind of Indian following that is there on social media, if you saw the name Kapil Dev and you didn't pick him, I think your friends would disapprove of you. Uh, the next one that we had on the poll was Courtney Walsh versus Makaya Antini. Now again, Makaya Antini was in that group of bowlers of South Africa, which was probably, the top bowling attack of their time in their own right, with Pollock, Steyn, etc. So, what do you guys think about this matchup?
I think personally, Mackay Ntini was a fantastic bowler. I thought he always punched above his weight. Probably wasn't the most skillful compared to some of the others on that list, but that's taking nothing away from his record and his ability and what he was able to achieve in Test cricket. I think Courtney Walsh, for me, takes this one out just because what he was able to do with the ball. I think he's one of those guys in that list that so similar. They made bowling look so easy, so languid, and was able to, move the ball at will and outwit the batsman so beautifully, and combine skill and will to outdo the batsman. And there's a reason why he was, leading Test wickets over there for a while. So Mackay Ntini was outstanding, but for me, Courtney Walsh, just that extra bit of skill with the ball, was able to outwit batsmen for me.
I was at Courtney Walsh's last Test match, which was in Sydney in 2001, and it was quite sad. I mean, he got an honour guard as he walked out to bat for the last time, and as I said, way back at the start of my cricket watching life, he was in that side in 84-5.
Yeah.
So over the course of 16 years or so, he was the one constant as the West Indies went from the best by miles on this sad decline.
Yeah.
They lost that 2000-2001 series against Australia 5-0. It's the last time Australia's ever allowed them to play 5 Test matches in Australia. Since then, they've cut them to 3 Test matches or even less. And so it was really sad that he was the last link to that side of absolute greatness. And his own career was absolutely fantastic. So bowling average of 24 point something, tremendous bowler. And once he left, that's when the West Indies were grateful.
Yeah, I mean, I love this this matchup because it's 2 genuine number 11s, really, as well, isn't it? In terms of their batting, and we were talking earlier about the some of the footage that's available on YouTube or on Twitter, and I'm sure we've all seen Courtney Walsh leaving the ball. Yeah. Just can watch that over and over again, no problems at all. And I think Ntini averaged under 10. So fits the bill, as I say, absolutely perfectly. And again, Courtney Walsh, a player I didn't really get to see a great deal of in his prime, but right at the end of his career, the final tour to England, him and Curtly Ambrose were just absolutely incredible.
Unstoppable,
and it just got to the point where they would just get wickets, no runs, and then England just had to try and get anything off the change bowlers. And these poor change bowlers, they weren't that bad, but they just looked like absolute village players in comparison to the two greats. So it's still just everything about Courtney Walsh, from his run up to the way he bowled to the way he left the ball when he was batting, just brilliant.
But that's the thing. I think it's also the relentlessness of those bowlers. They wouldn't give you anything. It's so hard to score off them. I think a sign of a great bowler is when you can get a batsman out at will when they're trying to defend you. That's what Walsh did brilliantly. He was able to do that time and time and time again, and to do it over such a long period of time is a testament to his greatness, for sure.
Yeah, and I especially love that point of, Ntini punching above his weight, because he actually did. You could see it. And, we often forget the social ramifications, that come out of cricket. Like Ntini was the first black player to represent South Africa. And I'm digressing a little, but if you guys have seen the documentary Fire in Babylon, where, they show the rise of West Indies cricket and, even the social implications with the fearsome foursome and how they gained respect in England. So really, these bowlers, they've done so much even socially for their own countries.
For sure.
This poll was taken by Walsh, who got 77% of the votes. But again, this is like Djokovic, Federer, as you guys rightly put it.